It's way too easy to work all the time. That's why I don't let my guys work weekends.
Most guys think they got to do after hours because that's where all the money's at. But if your business can't make money during normal business hours, you've got a problem.
When I first started my business, I didn't have the best work-life balance, and it wasn't until I realized that. What's up, Joel?
Jared, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Good, man. Long time no see.
Long time no see.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
So I can say.
And it's Podcast Friday.
Dude,
My favorite day.
I felt like it's been Friday for like 4 days now.
I feel like it's been Friday for at least 2 days now.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, at least 2 days.
Yeah.
Definitely legitimately confused like yesterday was Friday.
Correct.
Because we, unbeknownst to some, we podcasted yesterday.
Dude, I got to tell you, I got to let you know a little secret.
Uh-oh.
Because I feel bad a little bit.
What, did you fart or something? Is that what happened here?
I wouldn't tell you about that.
You just blame me?
I blame it on you.
Yeah, okay.
Dude, Jill.
Like, come on.
Okay, hold on. I got to tell you a
Oh, yeah,
story.
that's a good story.
And then I will confess to you.
Okay. You're going to forget your confession. You know that, right?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to forget.
Okay.
In the morning, me and my wife would go sit on our front patio.
Yep.
And our neighbors always come outside
Yeah.
in the morning when we're out there. Mm-hmm. Super nice people. So every now and then, I got to let out a little bit of a fart, okay? And so what I do is I let it out, and I immediately go, Christelle. My wife's name is Christelle. And she gets so embarrassed.
Yep.
It's the greatest thing on the planet. And I didn't learn that until we moved here. Like for the last couple of years, we've been like, you know what? I want to be able to sit outside in the morning.
Yeah.
On my porch and drink coffee.
Yeah.
That was like our main goal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now we live somewhere where we can do that. Last winter we were super religious.
Yeah,
If it was cold out,
Even if it was cold, you
we
went
got
out there and you,
blankets, we went outside.
Yeah.
This year we haven't been out there in a couple months because we're like, it's cold out.
Yeah,
And it's like
it's
60 degrees.
No, it's like it'll be like 50 degrees.
It was like 40 something this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not
It's
warm.
hecka nice out now though.
Oh, dude, it's super nice.
Yeah.
We should do this podcast outside.
We should.
It might not look very good, but it'd
We
be
should
nicer.
walk and talk or bike and talk.
Oh yeah.
Remember we were going to do a biking
Nah, we should. We should just
podcast?
We should just like throw a curveball for Morgan and Costin and like grab the mic. Let's go bike.
We need some GoPros.
Well, we got time. We go to Best Buy, get some GoPros.
Go grab, do it today.
Yeah, like right now. Morgan could release this next week, and then
then
we
it's like
transition to us being on the trail.
Next week.
Yeah. Jared and Joel are on the trail trying to talk about plumbing. We should try one just to see how it goes.
It'd just be us breathing.
Yeah, like this is really hard. I haven't done this in a while.
Yeah. Okay. Confession.
Okay, good you remembered.
I have a bunch of work I'm supposed to be doing.
Right now?
Well, not right now, but I mean, yeah, in general.
Yeah.
I have a laundry list of stuff I should probably be working on. This morning I woke up and I didn't do a thing.
Intentionally?
I actually went and worked on my van. I did some plumbing.
Oh.
It was nice. I got my hot water going. Got my sink mounted. And I showed you my hot water.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yep.
Got my hot water on. You know what's funny about that? The hot water heater came with a mixing valve.
Yeah.
Because it gets to like 140 degrees, which is technically will burn you, right?
Yeah.
If you stay in it too long. Again, you got to be dumb to stick your hand in 140 degrees
or
and leave it there long enough.
Or super tough.
One of the two. So, dude, I turned my water on. I didn't install the mixing valve because it was too much work.
Did it come installed or something or what?
Do you know? I mean, it's just, you got to pipe the hot and the cold and then the mix out. And I just wanted to pipe hot, cold. So that's what I did. And I thought, it's two grown adults. We're smart enough to not burn the piss out of ourselves.
Yep. Heck yeah.
Here's what's going to happen though. There's a shower and there's a sink. I'm going to be in the shower. Christelle's going to turn on the cold water and I'm going to get burnt.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen.
I guarantee
And then
it.
she's going to be like, Jared, why didn't you could have stopped this?
Yeah, she's going to be like, why didn't you put a stupid mixing valve on?
You're like, well, because I figured we wouldn't do stupid stuff.
Anyway, I spent the whole morning, all the way up until noon, just doing whatever I wanted to do. It was great.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
But now you got a whole bunch of work you got to do.
Now I got a whole bunch of work I got to do, which leads us into this podcast topic.
Work as much as you possibly can all the time, no
matter what, is work-life balance. And the reason we're going to talk about this is because it's something that I have struggled with tremendously over the last forever.
Yeah.
like my whole life.
Christelle should be in on this podcast.
She should be.
She could just be here nodding.
Should have done this with my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She can come in right now. I can probably go home.
Probably. And then also I know a lot of other people struggle with this because it's like when you start a business, and we talked about this on our last podcast, but you start the business and there's a couple different things that happens. You either, number one, start the business and you don't know how to run a good business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you think, I need to answer my phone all the time. I need to text customers back. They're texting you at 8 o'clock at night.
Sure. Yep.
Running late to a customer's house. You get there, it's a bigger deal. You want to make sure and take care of them, so you're working late.
And you're trying to get every job you can. So when that late afternoon like repipe comes in, you're like, I'll do it.
Somebody on Saturday has a problem with work that you did on Friday. You feel like you need to go fix it immediately. And you end up working all the time, right? And I've done this a gazillion times, fallen into that exact same trap. And most of that for me came from I didn't know how to set boundaries, and then I didn't understand how to be in business. Like I didn't understand how to price myself and all that stuff. So I wasn't like making a ton of money.
Yeah, sure.
So I didn't want to lose out on any opportunities.
Yeah.
And to offset the fact that I wasn't making money, I just worked all the time. And that's how I made enough money, just working all the time. And so that's totally a trap you can fall into. But then on the other hand, a lot of things that happen, like, and I see this all the time in our coaching program. We take plumbers from that, right? And we show them the way.
Yeah.
So now they have a clear picture on what it is that they need to do. And like, it's like a light bulb clicks in their head. Okay. And they can see the light at the end of the tunnel now.
Yeah, sure.
And to them, the light at the end of the tunnel seems so close.
Right.
Because they just learned all the steps to get there.
Right. Yeah.
The reality is it's a process and it takes time. And so you are frantically working and pushing and striving because you want to get there so bad.
Right.
And there's so much to do that you're like, I just want to get it all done so I can get to this end point, right? So I can get the thing that I want. And you end up just working all the time.
Right.
And not enjoying yourself. And for me, I did the same thing, but then I tacked on, like when I was growing my business, you know, we grew quite a bit. We grew pretty fast.
Right.
Like looking back on it now, felt like forever when I was in it. But now looking back on it, it's like, oh, that was fast. It was quick. But then I just made it way worse for myself because I didn't have the perspective that I needed. Like I would work all the time. Like, and I couldn't shut it off in my brain.
Yeah.
Which is a common thing, right? So yeah. So let's talk about that. Shazam.
Yeah, I remember this was one of, I think, your concerns when you were opening up your business for the most recent time. I feel like we had this conversation where you're like, I'm kind of worried about going into this because you knew what it would do to you. And I think Christelle was like, oh, here we go again.
Here we go again.
Because she knew that she was going to lose you for a time because you were just going to be like, I'm Jared, but I'm not really here because I'm thinking about my business.
Yep.
And then you would just be like, wherever you were, your brain was always there thinking about your business.
Yep. And that's probably the hardest part
Yeah.
to get rid of.
Yeah, that is
It's tough.
It's really hard to shut down the brain. Yeah. Okay, so how did you so tell us about that experience of
So there's kind of two schools of thought on this, right? There's the guys who say, screw work-life balance.
Sure.
If you enjoy your work, just work. And that's your life because you like it. And I can kind of see that. Like that's kind of like Alex Hormozzi's boat.
Oh, yeah,
He's
sure.
Like, I love working, so why wouldn't I just do what I love?
Yeah, and he optimizes for that. Like, I'm not going to have any kids because then I couldn't work from 4 to whenever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's really like three perspectives, because then there's the guys who say, okay, there is a way to have work-life balance.
Sure.
You can put limits on your working hours and your time spent at work and do these things to help set your brain in the right mode. And then there's the guys who say, there's no such thing as work-life balance. I guess, kind of Alex Hormozy, that guy's kind of in the same boat, but they're kind of on different spectrums. Like Grant Cardone would be a good example of somebody who would say that, right? He's probably always thinking about work,
Right.
but at the same time, seems like he goes and enjoys himself quite a bit.
Right.
Whereas Hormozy, it's like, what I enjoy is work.
Right. This is my enjoyment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say Grant Cardone is like, no, when there's work to do, I work. And when there's fun to be had, I have fun.
Yeah. And he would probably be like, I have 10x fun and I do 10x the work.
Correct.
Like it's
when
like
there's work to be done, I'm working really hard.
But when I'm having fun real hard.
Correct.
Yeah.
I agree.
There isn't like a coasting.
Right. And so in his mind, there is no balance. It's just, I'm taking whatever it is necessary of me at the moment. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it 10x.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I've seen examples of all three. And I have erred towards different. I've been in kind of all those modes of thought and trying to do those different things. And as much as I don't want to say it, you probably need to do what works for you in the end.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because my relationship with my wife might be different than your relationship with your wife.
Sure.
I mean, we know that to be true, and just between me and you.
Right.
And then, because your wife's needs are different than my wife's needs.
Right. Yep.
And you're a different person than me.
Right. Of course.
And then, like, somebody might not be married.
Yeah, they have a whole different set of rules that are that they're bound by.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really is important to figure out what works for you. And like, I equate this to like influencer morning routines. Everybody's got their crazy wild morning routines, and we all look at those things and we're like, oh, if I just do what he does, then I'll have the success that this guy has.
I'll be super rich.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'll learn the discipline to do the ice bath and to do this and everything. But at the end of the day, like, it's going to be what actually works for you so that you can operate at the optimal levels of production.
Correct.
For what you need to do at that current time.
And also, like, I would say, like, starting this conversation off, you probably have to identify, or at least sort of identify what it is that you actually want.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because if you want to build a $1 billion company,
it's going to require more work from you.
It's going to require a ton of work from you.
And more dedication.
A ton of push.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of like training for a 100-mile race looks different than training for a 24-mile race.
Correct.
Like, it's going to take longer time commitments over a longer period of time, ultimately resulting in a longer thing done.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think that's a really good place to start, because if you don't start there, what you might find is you just end up working all the time, but you have no really idea why you're doing it.
For no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we see that a lot within the plumbing business communities because guys don't understand the business, they end up working all the time.
Yep.
And, they don't get to see their wives or their kids very much.
And then even if they do understand the business, like just thinking about guys who get in our program, they have an unrealistic, well, maybe not unrealistic, but they haven't identified what it is that they actually want for themselves. Right? Because it's easy to go like on Instagram or YouTube and see these very successful people and say, oh, I want that. Like, that's what success looks like, right? That's success for them. And like a good book to read on that would be The 40-Hour Work Week. Sorry, 4-Hour Work Week. 40. I do that every time, you know that?
Yeah.
Every time I talk about that book, I'm like, the 40-Hour Work Week.
Yeah, and everyone's like, yeah, that's like kind of what most people want.
Standard.
Yeah.
No. It's the 4-Hour Work Week.
Yeah.
So like this idea of that success is like fancy cars and multi-million-dollar homes on the beach and cool watches and Gucci bags and all that stuff, right? It's easy to look in like rich people in our culture and say, oh, that's what successful people do. Like, I want that stuff, right? But I can tell you right now, like, for me, that has zero appeal whatsoever. And the difference is going to be how much money you actually need.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
At some point in time, you don't really need any more money. So then what is it that keeps you going if you have bigger goals, right? And that's going to affect time frames as well. It's going to affect how much you're going to have to work in order to get there.
Mm-hmm.
If you can be more patient and say, I'm going to do this in 10 years instead of 2, well, now you got 10 years to do 2 years worth of work. You can work a lot less, right?
Yeah.
And I think just having those perspectives will help you a lot when it comes to, because really, like for me, what it boils down to when I feel like I have to work a lot is because I'm being impatient.
Go elaborate.
It's because I haven't like clearly identified where I want to go and the time frame that I want to get there in. And I haven't broken that down and said, okay, these are the things I need to do. This is how long these things are going to take. And so I have this much time available. So I need to do these things in this order.
Sure.
Whereas if I guess I want to put this in like a real situation rather than just mythical thought patterns out here. Let's say you're we'll just go with the analogy we've been using. You're a plumbing business owner and you're working all the time and you're stuck. You feel stuck. You get in our coaching program and we're like, dude, all you got to do to get to 5 million in revenue is this string of things.
Sure.
Right. And let's say you make a giant list from top to bottom of here's all the things I got to do in order to achieve 5 million. Well, you have a giant list of crap to do.
Right.
And if you think, okay, I got to start getting all this stuff done with no time frame in mind, right? It's all got to get done now.
Sure. Yeah.
You're going to just start working and you're not going to stop working until you hit $5 million in revenue, right? Because you're going to have to put all these things in place.
Right.
And that's kind of like what I did with my business. It was, I saw the end goal. I could finally see the steps that it took to get to there. And I put my head down and I just started working and worked and worked and worked and worked. Even when I didn't really need to. Like I mistook working for accomplishing things when in reality, I could have just chilled out and we would have been in the same point.
Yeah, the things would. Yeah,
it just made me feel it. It made me feel better being busy. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can definitely mistake activity for production.
Yeah, two totally different things.
Yes.
Being productive is things are actually getting things that need to get done are actually getting done.
Yeah, we can do activity all the time. It's easy to do activity and sort of like flutter around our businesses and be like, "Ooh, I'm so busy."
Very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you didn't do anything.
Or you did a bunch of stuff, but it was stuff that didn't even need to be done.
Yeah.
And then you overcomplicated your business.
Yeah.
for just to feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
And that happens.
Yeah.
Especially when you start making money.
What do you mean by that?
So, like our business model, my plumbing business model is relatively simple.
Yeah.
And it basically didn't make very good money for 2 years. And then one day it was like, ding, ding, it's working. And at that point, when it started working, it was like, it felt wrong because it was too easy. Too easy to, it's like, surely it can't be this easy.
Surely all that, well, because also you've crammed so much activity and attention to this thing.
Yeah.
And then suddenly to wake up one day and be like, wait, I don't have to like do stuff.
Yeah.
It like just kind of does it.
Yeah. It's just, money is just made automatically.
It's kind of unsettling.
We'll call it automagically.
Oh, nice.
Where did I steal that from?
I have no idea. I've never heard it before.
Well, it's my new term I coined then.
Automagically.
I stole it from somewhere. I don't remember where though. Yeah. There you go. That's it. Podcast done.
Yeah.
Don't overwork yourself.
Yeah. Boom. Done. That's it. No practical steps. None needed.
So, probably the easiest way I have found to solve this problem for myself. And I'm not pretending to be an expert, but these are the things that I have done that have helped me, because this is something like work-life balance. You ask my wife, she'll tell you, yeah, he doesn't have that figured out yet.
Yeah.
But he's gotten a lot better
Sure.
than he used to be. And like step one was kind of what we talked about already. It's just realizing that building things take time, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That things can get done tomorrow. I don't have to finish this today. There's projects that take multiple days, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I always feel like I got to get stuff, like when I start a project, I got to start it and finish it.
Yeah.
I can't go to bed in between.
Yeah, sure.
And that's not true. That if you just do a little bit today and a little bit tomorrow and a little bit the next day and a little bit the next day, and you're consistent with that, that's when you start seeing compounding effects of stuff getting done.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, instead of making like really focused long stints of pushes into this thing.
Correct.
Make sure, yeah, okay, gotcha.
I think there's time for, like, there's a time where that can be beneficial. Like I was talking about on the last podcast, my price book.
Yeah, sure.
I knew I needed to get it done. Had guys working for me that they needed a price book.
Right.
And I was so busy in the day-to-day of my business that I had to set aside a Saturday to get that done. I think there's times for that. There's times to push on stuff. But a lot of times we push for no reason.
Yeah. Again, going back to like we push just because we really think that activity translates into production.
Right. So just that realization that not everything has to get done today, and that I'm going to build this thing over the next few years.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And that's okay. It's going to be worth it. It's going to be better, actually, if I slow down and I build this thing strong from the get-go,
Yep.
rather than pushing to get it jumbled together to have to go back and fix it.
Right.
Right. So developing that mindset of just being patient and getting better a little bit each day, and over the next few years, we'll be light years ahead of where we are today.
Right.
Just that realization and trying to think more long term. I read a book. I wish I could remember the name of the book. It's by the guy who owns Hobby Lobby. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the guy's name.
So it was a fascinating book. He gives away 50% of their profit every year, which is cool. And he started smaller and then worked his way up.
Yep.
But his business, he started that business, I think, in the 50s or 60s or something like that. He's a super old dude. It's the most profitable, I don't know what you call those stores, like that style of store.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
I don't know. You could make like a hobby store.
It's like hobby, arts and crafts, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's the category they put it in.
Yeah.
So like you've got Hobby Lobby, you've got Pottery Barn, you've got Joanne Fabrics, you've got Michael's, all of those kinds of stores. They're the most profitable store. And when you're reading the book, like the book is about how he got to giving away 50% of his income and his thoughts on, his religious thoughts on why he does that, which are all fascinating, interesting. I came away from the book thinking the guy's kind of weird. He's got some pretty extreme views. But the one thing I took away from the book was his ability, because he's built a monstrous business, like billions of dollars, right? His ability to think further out than most people. So he thinks about, because of his religious views, right? He's a Christian guy. He wants to set something up that continues to give back to the world. Feels like it's his moral responsibility, which I think is rad. But because of that, he goes, well, I don't want to set this thing up so it just doesn't in my lifetime. He's thinking, I want this thing to be giving back to the world 500 years from now.
Sure.
Long after I'm gone. I want this to be a continual thing that continues to give back, that I put in motion, that like a snowball only gets bigger the more it rolls, right? Really fascinating just to see, number one, what he's built, and then to see the decisions that he's made 30 years ago and how they've affected his business today. It was cool. Put me in a little different mindset about business because I've always thought about, well, I just want to build something that makes me some quick cash.
Sure.
Because I never had any cash.
Yeah.
But to think about it from a little bit more like his perspective of, man, what if I build this really cool thing that operates and does cool stuff and does good in the world? It's cool.
Yeah, over a longer period of time than just like the next 5 years or whatever.
Yeah, and to really think about that and put things in play today that I know are going to have a massive effect 10 years from now is kind of cool to think about. So just that, having that longer perspective, right? Because with my first plumbing business, I wanted it to make $1 million. That was my goal. $1 million, $1 million, $1 million.
Yeah, sure.
And then we reached that goal relatively quick.
Right.
And then it was like, what now? Now what? Now what do we do?
Yeah, because
why did I even have that goal?
Yeah, because you crossed it off in your journal and you're like, well, I did it.
And it didn't feel any cooler, right?
I still got to like do some stuff today.
Yeah.
Like, it's still Tuesday.
Yeah.
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 It's not like you probably didn't feel this giant burden off of your soul and you could just like die happy.
No, And I still looked at the business and thought, this could be better.
Yeah, sure.
We can improve.
Yeah, you didn't
we
like,
can
all
do
right,
better.
it's done. Put it on the shelf. Call it good.
Yeah. So I don't know why I brought that up, but it's just maybe it's that longer term view will help you to be patient because you're not thinking about
totally
6 months from now, a year from now. You're thinking about 5 or 10 years from now. And you're recognizing the fact that it's going to take a long time.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because when I get there, it's going to be freaking awesome.
Yeah. Also, when you're putting yourself in the perspective of it's going to take a long time, you're changing what the expectations of today and next week and next month are by extending that time frame out.
Correct.
Like if you suffer a slow month,
Yep.
but you have a 10-year perspective, like, oh, it's a slow month. Or like if you have like a couple bad things happen in your business that cost you money, instead of it being like, oh my gosh, this is going to keep me from getting my year-end goal. And it's, oh, if I don't hit that, I won't hit this. It's just like, oh, this in the long term, this isn't, I'm not even going to remember that this happened.
Right.
I'm not going to remember that this person said this to me and it caused me to lose this money or this job or whatever. Like 10 years down the line, you'll be like, I don't remember any of that stuff. Yep. I just know that here I am.
Correct. Yeah. So that was kind of like step number one was, okay, I'm cool with this taking a long time. And I'm cool with setting it up for success. And I'm down with being patient.
Yeah.
Because you have to be. Because building cool stuff takes time. So, and I want to build cool stuff.
Yeah.
Not lame stuff.
Yeah.
And I think everybody could probably relate to that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to build anything lame.
Yeah.
It's like if you were going to go in and do a massive piping job and you could take if money and wasn't an issue, right? And you could bid it with enough money to take all the time you needed to make it just super perfect. And you could stand back at the end and go, this is awesome. Like most people would want to do that.
Right.
Rather than rush through the job.
Right.
And do it and do it good enough, but it's not super good, right?
Yeah.
So you have that opportunity with your business to build something cool.
Yeah.
Build it cool. And you can make money along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. And if you're doing it right, you will make money along the way.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
So aside from that, like that's more of like a mindset thing, right? It's like, okay, well, we can tackle this tomorrow.
Sure.
It'll be okay to tackle this tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're not going to die today if I don't tackle this.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, totally.
That helps a lot. I guess we should hit both of these. You know, you've got the guys who are running around. They're answering their own phones. They're taking all, working the weekends.
Yeah, they're just swamped with work because they're doing everything.
Yeah. Those guys, I would suggest putting limits on your phone. So either get a separate phone or get a separate phone number, like through a VoIP system, like Grasshopper or Ring Central or Mango Voice or whatever. We use Mango at our plumbing business still. And just get a separate phone number that you can set your business hours on, and before business hours and after business hours, let it go to voicemail.
Right.
That way you don't feel like you're tied to your phone. It's like off and on.
Mm-hmm.
And just set those limits for yourself. It'll help a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I would do is just refuse to work weekends as much as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Just because if you start working weekends and you allow yourself to work weekends,
sure.
I have all this work and I got to get caught up, and you're always going to have tons of work.
Yeah. And then that will be a part of your workflow.
Yeah.
And it also probably will, I mean, it depends, right? But there is a chance that it will cause you to be more inefficient during your normal work hours.
Yeah.
Because you'll know that your work extends beyond whatever you pencil in your work hours. You know, in the back of your mind, like, wow, if I go late, I go late. The wife's used to it. The kids are used to it. Mm-hmm. They understand where we're at and what I'm trying to do. And where you might have found, if you have these barriers of time when you're working, that you find ways to be really, really efficient.
Yep.
With it, like the example of like, oh, I answer my own phones and I do all this stuff. If you continually allow yourself to just go over your work hours, you might never be pushed into the idea that like I should hire somebody because I physically can't do this in the 8 hours that I have.
Yep.
And so that person will discover that if they hire somebody to do that, they'll actually be able to accomplish that, like more work in that 8 hours of time.
Yes. You will push yourself to be more efficient because you're limiting your time.
Yeah. Because you have to be, because you still have to accomplish the same amount of stuff. You just have less time to do it.
Correct. The other thing to think about is on your deathbed,
sure.
what are you really going to care about?
Yeah.
There's a book about this. It's from a nurse who took care of people on their deathbed. And she would ask them, like, what are the regrets?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are the things you wish you did more of? And what are the things that you regret? And the number one regret that she heard, that she documented, was, I wish I didn't work so much.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I didn't. I wish I would have spent my time differently than just working so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So when you're, if you can think of that long term, okay, I'm sitting on my deathbed, and am I going to care that I worked this Saturday?
Right.
Am I going to be like, dang, I wish I would have worked this Saturday? Or am I going to be like, dang, I wish I would have spent that time with my family instead? Right? Now, if it's life and death and you're not going to be able to eat if you don't go work on Saturday,
sure.
Well, that's a different story.
Yeah, it comes back to like, don't do stupid stuff.
Right.
But it's easy to make excuses for extra work.
Correct.
And sometimes like there's just a cultural ego thing that comes in where it's just like,
there is,
man, I got to work all these hours because that's what we do.
There is. I never understood that. So like I went through the union apprenticeship and got into the union, and there's a big thing. It's like guys want to work 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week. Mm-hmm. And I never understood it. They want to work and make the cash. And I'm like, man, I would rather learn how to live off less cash so I don't have to work so much.
Right.
Because the reality is, like, time is the only thing, it's like the only limited thing you have in your life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like time in your body.
Time in your body. And the thing, what people think is that money is limited. And the only way to get more money is to trade more time for it.
Sure.
And they think, if I trade this time, I'll get more money, and then I can spend time. I'll be able to afford to spend time doing the things I want to do.
Yeah, later.
What ends up happening is you just work a ton, and maybe you buy the boat or the cool car or whatever, but then you never go use it.
Yeah.
Because you have to continue working a ton to afford it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like in my own life, where I recognize very early that, if I just work more, I can afford the things that we need to afford.
Yeah.
But then I just ended up in a pattern that I had to work X amount of hours. I had to work over 50 hours for a decade plus to actually afford what's going on.
You start making more money, you have lifestyle creep.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you're stuck in a rut of having to work more.
Yeah. And there isn't this creative process that says, I wonder if I could make more money without having to work more if I look outside of what I'm doing and look into other opportunities that might be available to me.
Yep.
And that could look like maybe there's a way I can like optimize my business so that I don't have to do this all the time.
Correct.
Like there could be creative ways to either hire somebody to do this, not do it at all, or to automate it.
Or for most of these guys, they just need to raise their prices so that they can work 40 hours a week and make a decent paycheck.
Yep.
It's typically what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like there's those guys, right? It's like just set limits on what you're willing to work and figure out how to make it work within those limits. And then for everybody, like just change your mindset that you're building something cool and that you need to be patient in building it.
Yeah.
But then outside of that, like for the guy who, you know, maybe was in that position that we just talked about, but then let's say he got into our coaching program and can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and now he's got this big to-do list.
Sure, yeah.
Right? He's like, holy crap, there's like just so much to do. You know, they might feel like I just got to get to work on this stuff. And they're like, hey babe, I gotta work. I got too much to do. Right. Cause you feel like you got to get it all done at once. The best thing I've ever done, and plumbers are not known to do this, is live and die by my Google Calendar.
Sure.
And this took me years to figure out. I just started living and dying by my Google Calendar. And it's like night and day difference. And so there's like a few steps that I would recommend that you do. And I guess we'll just walk through all of those. So like probably first step is I would make a list of all the stuff I need to do. And the first thing I would do is I would go through that list, and if it's something that I don't need to worry about in the next couple months, I would just cross it off my list altogether.
Yeah.
Because if it's 2 months down the road, you don't need to be thinking about it now.
Yeah.
Then I would go through that list and I would say, okay, you know, for the people who don't have any employees, they're going to have to do everything. But there are some tasks on your list that you're going to be able to automate, right? So whether you automate your review request text message, right? So in the beginning, I used to text all of my appointments. Hey, I'd text them the night before. I'd text them before I went to their appointment, and then I would text them afterwards to leave me a review. Well, when I got on Service Titan, we automated all that. And so now it's done for me through software, not a person. So if you're a one-man show, you're going to be able to automate some stuff. If you have employees, you need to be saying, okay, what can I delegate? What can I automate? And then always, do I even need to do this?
Right. Yeah.
Like, is this even something I need to worry about?
Yep.
And the saying goes, don't do something you can delegate, and don't delegate something you can automate, and don't automate something you don't even need to do.
Yeah.
Right. So you can kind of think of it in that order. So if you take your list of to-dos and you narrow it down to stuff you actually need to do, and then you figure out whether you need to like sit down and actually do the work, or you can delegate it, or you can automate it. And then you go through and kind of put them in level of importance. Then when you get to the task, like you're working on the most important thing to begin with. And then you know how you're going to tackle it. Okay, I have to do this.
Right.
Oh, I'm delegating this to so-and-so. Or actually, I'm going to automate with this software, right? All of them require a little bit of doing.
Sure.
But delegating and automating are less.
Right.
Like, who's going to automate it? Am I going to delegate the automation of this?
Yeah, sure.
Or am I going to do it? Right. So that will help you narrow down what it is that you actually have to do, which is powerful because if you have marked this, I'm going to delegate this task, all of a sudden that sucker is off of your brain.
Right.
And it's on somebody else's brain. Even before you delegate it, you're like, oh yeah, Joel's going to handle that. Right. Or, oh yeah, homeboy's going to handle that. I don't even have to think about it.
Right.
All you have to think about is, okay, I'm going to tell him to do this. I'm going to give him some guidelines. What do I need those guidelines to be?
Right.
And that's it. And then let him roll with it.
Right.
So that's super handy. You'll get a ton of brain space back that way. And the other thing is by going through and like thinking of all the things that you got to do and then thinking of the best order to do them in, you've done some really valuable thinking.
Yeah, you really have.
And now you've identified the things that you need to work on to propel your business forward. Like those first couple tasks are the things that are going to make the most difference in your business. That's why you put them at the top of the list.
And then, okay, no, keep going.
And then what?
Well, because then eventually you got to figure out when to do these things.
Correct. So this would be step 2. If you get a piece of paper, or you can do this on a computer too. Like if you're a
tech wizard.
Yeah, I like spreadsheets because they're handy. So you could do this on a spreadsheet. You could do it on a piece of paper. What I'd do is I'd make a T graph. So you just draw a big T with a line, your horizontal line further up on the page than in the middle. And on the top left-hand side, you would write recurring. And on the top right-hand side, you would write one time. Because out of those list of tasks you have, some of those tasks are going to be done on a recurring basis. Some of them are going to be done one time, right? So like if you're automating something, you only have to automate it once and then it's done. Some things like let's say you're not to the point where you can automate. Trying to think of something that would be relatable that would be a recurring task. Like for some guys, it might just be like, I have to run service calls.
Yeah, sure.
That's a recurring task.
It's going to take up a bunch of your time.
It's going to take a bunch of my time.
Yeah.
Right. For me, like I have to film videos and it's recurring. I do it every day, Monday through Friday, every single day.
Yep.
That's a recurring task. It's on my recurring task list, right? So you're going to take all the things that you listed out on your to-do list and you're going to put them in this recurring and one-time category.
Yeah.
And then you're going to add like all of your day-to-day one-time tasks because you have things that you have to do as a human being in order to continue to operate at your best at work. You have to have these things that you do in your normal life, right?
Sure.
So we need to be getting enough sleep. We need to be eating enough food. We need to be eating healthy food. We need to be exercising. Like we need to set time aside for those things. Because if you don't do them, like if you just go all in on your business and you go head first and you dive in and you're skipping all of these things, you're not preparing your food, you're not going to bed on time, you're not getting your exercise in, you're going to lose a lot to push forward a little in your business.
Yeah, and it won't help you when you have that long-term vision.
Yeah.
Like a part of that long-term vision being successful is that you are still there to push it.
Well, even you're there to enjoy it.
Yeah, that too.
Like,
and if you ain't healthy,
if you spend 2 years building your business and you gained 50 pounds because you eat like crap and
you started smoking a lot of cigarettes.
Even if you didn't, if you just stopped exercising and now you look like garbage and you feel like garbage.
You know, we can finally take that vacation.
And you're going to be like, let me work out for a year so I can take my shirt off at the beach, right? So you want to keep up on all that stuff, right? And part of like, if you're going to grow a successful business, it's going to be really hard if you don't have the rest of your life in some sort of order.
Oh yeah. That's
because there's a discipline, it's a character trait of somebody. If I go look at somebody and they aren't fat and they're motivated and they're energetic and those kinds of things, I'm gonna look at those people and I'm like, you know what? He's got his personal life in order.
Sure.
He's probably going to have his business life in order.
Right. Or even if he doesn't have his business life in order yet, he's got a much higher chance of getting it in order.
Much higher.
Yeah.
Like if they have the discipline to wake up every day and work out, it says a lot about a person, right?
Or even if they have like a healthy relationship with their spouse.
Yeah.
Like that is huge when it comes to your success in business. Because like if you haven't cultivated a good relationship with your wife, then there's always going to be this tension between you doing what you want to do and your wife wanting you to do what she wants you to do. And if you're not good at like communicating that, or you can't really express truth within that relationship, like you are going to be paying a lot to actually grow this business. I mean, I've talked to guys in the position where they're like, hey man, like right now it's like I can't do the program because like, I'm going through a divorce and I gotta getting remarried. And it's just like, okay, like I know that guy, for him to be successful in his business is going to be way harder. Because he's got so much other stuff going on that is going to limit his ability to make time to just think about his business. And to even think clearly about it.
If your home life is a mess, typically your business life is a mess.
I mean, like think about your technicians. Like when your technicians' lives are rocky because it shows in their work.
It does.
You're like, oh, homeboy's, likes to party a lot, and that's why he's late, and that's why he's starting to slip and all these things.
Or even just like, having like marital problems that shows in your work, or even if your parents are having a hard time, like one of your parents are sick, it's going to affect the way you operate at work. The more you can have your home life in order, the better. That's for sure. It's more about becoming the kind of person you need to become in order to be successful is really what it is.
And I think people know that now more than they used to because there's lots of internet that's telling them that. But there's a difference between knowing it and then understanding it by walking through it.
Correct.
It's like, we all know there's self-transformation and building a business. We all get it. We know. But even that statement shows that I don't know. Because
there's a lot of growing to be had.
And growing that you're not going to expect that you're going to have to do.
It's character development.
Because that's what growth is. Like for me, the biggest moments of growth came from the unexpected. And then how I dealt with the unexpected. And then how I came out the other side and was like, holy crap. Okay, I got to do something different.
Man, I messed that up.
Okay, let's not do that again because that sucked.
Or
like, whew, I could have definitely done the wrong thing there. That would have sucked. I'm glad I did this. Let's remember that I did that right. And I see now what doing that wrong would have done. And it's easy to like think we know all those things, but until you're in the thick of it, you don't really know.
No, and that's why I feel like it's so important to just start doing stuff. Because and not get analysis paralysis, because chances are you don't know what all's going to happen or how you're going to need to develop as a person or those kinds of things until you're in it. And you're like, I have to figure this out.
Until you're tested.
I'm forced to figure this out now. Now I need to develop into the kind of person that can handle this and can accomplish this.
And I think that's a good point, though, because some people will think that they can't develop into that person. Like they're just innately who they are because that's how they think.
And I used to think that way,
I think a lot of people think that way. Like, I'm just stupid. Or like, I get this all the time. I just don't know technology, man.
Like,
Like, I can't do computer stuff.
Well, go learn it.
And
it's like you can learn anything.
And like, but there's still like this disconnect of like, oh yeah, you're right. I guess I could. Like, it's like, who cares if it's a computer? It's a system. Like, if you're a plumber, you know very complicated, high-level things. A computer is no different. It's just on a screen. Same stuff. Like, all these things are skills that you can learn and you need to learn.
A better thing to say to yourself would say, I don't want to learn computer stuff.
Yes, because it's hard and uncomfortable, and I feel stupid and all this kind of stuff. And that's the growth that that's the growth that you will be experiencing. Is putting yourself in uncomfortable situations because you know it's good for you.
I used to watch this guy a lot on YouTube, Justin Rhodes. Your wife watches him. I don't know if you do.
I did a little bit back in the day.
But so he went through a time period where he was like, I'm not going to say I can't anymore. I'm going to take that out of my vocabulary. And I'm going to replace it with, I don't want to. Or I don't feel like doing that. Or I'm going to try to tell myself the real thing here. Rather than just saying, I can't. It's pretty cool.
Boots always used to tell me that. He would say, people would be like, Boots, we can't do that. And he'd be like, no, you won't. You're choosing not to. There's no such thing as can't.
It's true.
It is true.
It's very true.
I mean, it's annoying when it's coming from like a person who's bugging you when they tell you something that you're like, I guess that's true. You're right.
I secretly love Boots.
I know you do.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah, I secretly love him too.
Yeah,
Actually, it's not even a secret.
it's the truth.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So we've got our list of recurring and one-time tasks. And we've added all of our stuff we got to do every day. So like I go to bed at this time. Like I have to go to bed and wake up at a certain time. I need to work out. I have to prep I got to sit down and drink coffee in the morning and think about my business.
Or even like I have to like hang out with my wife.
I got to hang out with my wife at this time, hang out with my family at this time. This time is blocked off for dinner and hang out with my family.
Also, like this exercise is really good to do because it'll show you, one, it'll help you remember things that are important. Like if you have a family and your kids are old and they're doing sports and stuff and you forget what days their sports on, you'll have to be like, hey, babe, when do all the kids do stuff? And she's like, you've never asked this question. Like, huh, this is different from you.
Well, so you're getting ahead of yourself.
Okay.
Here. Okay. So you're making this list of all the stuff. Where you're at is the next step after this is you're going to take all those recurring items and you're going to go block them off in your Google Calendar.
Right.
So you're going to block off, okay, I'm going to bed at 10 p.m. and I'm waking up at 6. And then you're going to block off, okay, I need 15 minutes to brush my teeth and shower because normal people shower in the morning.
I shower in the morning.
Okay,
and
good.
at night.
You double shower?
Yeah, because usually I'm doing stuff and during the day and I get all sweaty.
Dude, what's wrong with going to bed sweaty?
Because the bed gets all dirty. And you know, you sit in bed and you're all dirty in bed and you feel that you're just dirty in bed and like the sheets like...
This is another conversation.
Yeah. Going to bed dirty, I just don't.
Yeah.
I know you're down with going to bed dirty, like covered in plumber.
I just don't want to
stuff.
hop in the shower before I go to bed.
I mean, me neither, but I would rather hop in the shower than like get in the bed and be like, oh, I stink.
Ooh, stanky.
Oh, the sheets
I
are
definitely don't want to
grabbing
start
on me.
my day out that way.
Yeah.
I like to start my day out clean, for sure. Okay. So you're going to put in, I go to bed at this time. I need to shower and brush my teeth. I need to block off 30 minutes for making coffee and chilling and doing your journal.
True.
Everybody should journal, in my opinion.
What is the main purpose of journaling?
Just to think.
Like when you're journaling, what are you writing?
So I would sit down. So typically I have like goals in mind, right? And so I have like one bigger goal, like typically for the year. And what I would do during that time is I would think about what are the things I need to get done today to make this goal happen, right? So what are the most important things that I need to work on today? And sometimes it's the same thing for a few days, and that's fine. But it's just taking the time to like really think a little more high level instead of like, this is your time to like work on the business instead of in it.
Right.
You're not really working on it. You're just thinking on it, right?
Yeah.
It's that top down, high level perspective. And just going, okay, well, I want to get to here. What's like my number one priority? What's the number one thing that's holding me up? What's the one thing that if I changed or fixed, or what's that one lever that I could pull and it would have the largest effect on getting me to where I want to go? Okay, that's what I'm going to work on today. What does that look like practically today? Like what are the actual things that need to get done? And then I always take the time to make sure that thing is done that day. And if you can do that every day, and sometimes it's only like 2 hours of work, and then the rest of the day is just filled up with busy crap, right? But if you could do that every day and block off a little bit of time to get that thing done. So like, I won't check my email or voicemails or text messages or Slack messages or check Service Titan and see what we got going on until I get that thing done.
Sure.
And I say, no, I'm going in my hole and I'm getting this thing done.
Sure.
If you can do that every day, that compounds so fast.
Yeah, I've heard of different guys will call it, but guys will essentially call that like deep work.
Yeah. There's a book called The One Thing. And the whole book is like, it was written by the guy who owns, well, it's Keller Williams. I don't remember if it was the Keller or the Williams guy.
Yeah.
I think it's the Keller guy. But that was his thing. He would sit down and identify what's the one thing that I need to get done today. And he would block off on his calendar a 4-hour time period every day. And it was just labeled the one thing. And so he would go in his office. He would close the door. He would pull down the blinds. He would turn off his phone. He would tell his secretary, I'm not getting bothered for 4 hours.
Right.
I don't care if the building is burning down. Nobody bothers me.
I'm taking a nap.
Sure. And he would work on the one thing. And he built this ginormous real estate business, right?
Sure.
Doing that. And that was his secret. Wrote a whole book about it. I just told you the whole book. It was incredibly boring.
Okay.
And
sidebar, some business books are like that.
It was incredibly boring. So the same thing over and over and over again.
Probably give you like 25,000 different stories of different people doing that thing.
Yeah. And at the end of the book, I was left with, how do I know what the one thing is?
Yeah, sure.
Right? Because
Yeah.
he never,
Yeah,
went,
sure.
he
Yeah,
never
sure.
went into that.
Yeah.
And it took me forever to figure out how to figure out what the one thing is. And really the secret is you just need to take time to think about your business
Yeah.
and think about what it needs. And if you don't know what it needs, then the one thing is I got to learn what my business needs. So I need to go do some research. Where can I go get information? Where can I go learn how this works so that I know what I need to be working on? That's the one thing you need to work on. Right? I need to work on the fact that I don't know how to do this.
Right.
So once you have the steps, then it's easier to say, oh, okay, now I see where I'm going. Where am I at in these steps? What would be my next logical step?
Right.
That's the one thing I need to work on. Or what's the one thing that's lacking in my business? Where do I feel like we can improve? Okay, that's the one thing I need to be working on, right? That'll help you out a lot.
What if they're like, you run service calls all day and you can't like make the time to do 4-hour chunks of deep work?
Then I would schedule some time once a week to run, to not run service calls, but work on my business.
Yeah, but how could that possibly make me money? I'm losing money because I'm not answering my phone.
You're setting up the future, right? And you just have to be okay with that. So like one thing I did is Thursday mornings, I never did any work. So from 8 a.m. to noon, that was my time to work on the business.
Okay, yeah. So you didn't take any calls on Thursdays during that
Thursdays,
chunk.
yep. Yeah. Nothing got scheduled until noon. So I'd have my first service call at noon. The rest of the days, it would be 8 a.m. And then there were times where I would work on Saturday. As much as like, you need to have work-life balance, there is a time for...
Yeah, there's time for pushing on it.
Hey, this thing's got to get done. And I know if I spend the time now, it's going to make a big impact later.
Yeah. But you're aware it's outside of your normal flow. So
Correct.
you're not, and you're aware that the trap is making that extra work time your normal flow. And
it's really based on how much money you have.
Sure.
Like if I've got if my bank account's got a decent cash stack in it, then I'll take the whole Thursday off.
Yeah.
Rather than working on Saturday. That would be a much better use of your time.
I just had this thought occur to me. Tell me what you think about this. A lot of times, I mean, there's always this goal of making time to work on the business, not in the business. But the way that you achieve that is by,
Scheduling.
No. I mean, that is the answer.
Yeah.
But the way that we think to achieve that is once my business gets to a certain point of profitability, of like, I got enough guys going to where I can now take the time, then you can do that. Where I think the reality is like, even if you get there, but you haven't made a habit to schedule the time to think about it, you still won't do it. And
you will because you won't have anything else to do. But typically what ends up happening is because you haven't taken the time to work on your business and like think about it and set things up, you end up just with this mess of a business and you're just constantly putting out fires.
Yeah, so then you're working on the business time is more like reacting to the things that you have to fix.
Your business is very reactive instead of proactive.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking ahead and putting systems in place and growing and building, you're constantly reacting to something that's going wrong or a fire that you need to put out. Yeah.
And also like the way that you describe doing it is blocking off that time on a particular day for a little bit. You're emphasizing to yourself, I have to make use of this time because I could be making money right now. So I have to actually make use of this to do something that will then turn into more opportunity for my business to make more money more consistently later.
Yeah. And so that's kind of the beauty of this exercise right here. What's going to happen is as you go put these recurring tasks in your calculator, you start to realize
In your calendar,
sorry. You start to realize how little time you actually have.
Yeah.
Because you have limited time. Everybody has 24 hours in a day.
Well, except for that one guy.
He has 3 days in one. He has what, 3 6-hour days or something dumb like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still don't understand that.
It's just fun.
Who is that? Ed Milet?
Yeah, Ed
he gets
Milet.
3 days in one.
Yeah.
The way he structures his day.
Yeah, because I wake up at 4 and I do the. I don't even remember the whole spiel.
It's not even wake up at 4. It's just like he just structures it like it's 3 separate days in one day.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand. I never did understand that.
Yeah.
So you only have 24 hours in a day, and when you go put all these recurring tasks in your calendar, you will be amazed at how much your calendar fills up.
Yeah.
And you will go, I don't have that much time. That's why I can't get all this stuff done.
Right.
The first time I did this was like 8 months ago. And my wife was yelling at me. I was like, I just kept telling her, I don't have time to do everything.
Right.
Like I literally just can't get everything done. And she's like, yes, you do. And like our buddy Eric would always say, you only have time for what you make time for.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't understand. Like I have all these things I have to do. I just have to keep doing them until I get as many of them done.
Yeah, until I knock them off the never-ending to-do list.
Or I'm going to get so backlogged that I don't know what's going to happen. And so like my default has always just been, I'm just going to go work.
Yeah, you're just going to put your head down and focus and smash out as many activities
activities as I can so that tomorrow maybe there will be less activities. But it's rare, right?
Right.
And then when there was no activity, I would feel out of place and I would go find something to do.
Yeah.
So I would just work all the time.
Yeah.
So once you put all these recurring tasks in your calendar, you have this new realization of, dang, I don't have any time. Like the white space between events on your Google Calendar, you're going to go and that's where you're going to. And like for people who need to be a technician, put time on the calendar for go be a technician.
Yeah.
Like go run calls.
Yeah. And I think it's really helpful to have a default task that you can do when you don't have calls to run. Because there's so much time wasted in I could probably do something right now. Let me go check my list and determine what I should be doing right now in this suddenly 2 hours of free time.
Yeah.
Like it's really helpful to go, okay, today I have 4 calls scheduled. And then when you find that one of those calls bails on you and you don't have any calls to put in there, you're like, okay, I know what to do now. I just pivot to this activity and this is how I'm going to do this out on the road doing the thing.
And that's what your journal in the morning would help you identify.
Yeah, because you know that, hey, man, this is the thing you need to work on today.
What's the most important stuff? I already know. So if I get any time, that's what I'm going to work on.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times it's like, you find that free time and you're like, you just kind of float. And you don't really, that's when you kind of work on kind of this, random stuff. You tinker.
Yeah.
You don't really accomplish anything.
So what I would do is I would block off like Thursday morning and just call it my one thing or one thing or whatever you want to call it. And then every morning, think about what it is that you're going to work on come Thursday.
Sure.
And just know that if you get any free time, you can always go work on the thing you were going to work on Thursday.
Yep.
And get a little head start on it or get a little extra done. And that'll compound really quickly. It'll help you out a lot. So once you have all the recurring tasks, now it's time to go put these one-time tasks in, right? So for the guy who has service calls, like we said, scheduled Monday through Friday, you're going to have to make time for these one-time tasks. So it's going to have to be after service calls in the morning, on Thursday morning blocked out, or sometimes on Saturday. It's going to be dependent on how much money you have.
Yeah.
If you've got a ton of money and you can block off a couple days to work on your business, then that's probably a good decision.
Yeah.
Right?
It's going to help for that long-term vision for your business.
Correct. For the guys who are out of the truck and they're in the office or they're managing people, your best bet is to you have all of your recurring tasks the day before. So at the end of every day, go check your to-do list. Maybe even what you put on the journal that morning, and then go schedule it in.
Yeah.
Like have another reset. Like, okay, I thought about this in the morning. I put that stuff on my calendar. You could do it in the morning or the night before, I guess. It wouldn't matter. And then schedule those things in the appropriate time slot.
Yeah. Pull them into your calendar.
Yep. Pull them into your calendar. And then keep that to-do list there. And as you do stuff, you can check it off. And then next time, the next day, you're going to go, okay, I got some white space. What's the next thing I need to be working on? It's this. I'm going to go put it on my calendar.
I think this is really important. I mean, this is such a good habit to cultivate when you're in the truck because it'll teach you really well and prepare you for when you're out of the truck. Because what's going to happen, like what you found out, is suddenly you're like, okay, so what am I supposed to do?
Now what do I do?
Like, I don't got to do I have to go to work still? And again, like if you don't have a structure to do productive things when you're out of the truck, you'll probably find stupid stuff to do. And you'll bug your technicians too much, or you'll bug your CSRs too much, or whatever. And then you just kind of like make use of your time. And then at the end of the day, you're like, dang, I'm actually hurting production because I just haven't given myself enough direct, actionable things to accomplish.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by putting them on your calendar, it gets you away from this idea of like, I have to get all this stuff done today.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, actually, all I can get done is this one thing. And all this other stuff is going to get put on my calendar at another day. And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's actually more productive to do it this way. You'll get more done over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And it'll just help you feel better.
Yeah.
When you're at home, like when you schedule something on your calendar and then you're able to check it off your list or know, like, I'm going to have to work on this for the next 3 days, and that's okay. When you leave that day and you go home and that thing isn't done yet, but you know it's going to get done over the next 2 days,
it's okay.
You feel okay about it. And then you're able to go home and be more present with your children and more present with your wife because you're not sitting there thinking about this thing, right? And you know that you have a list of the stuff that needs to get done. It's in order. You know it's going to end up on your calendar and you're going to find time to get it done. And it just eases the whole head burden of, I have all this stuff that needs to get done.
Right. Yeah, because, well, now you've taken a to-do list and you turned it into a system.
Correct.
Because to-do lists by themselves is not a good system. It's just it's a condemning list. Like, we've all gotten the to-do list that get to like 10, 15 things long, and all that is telling you that you don't get anything done.
And here's the other thing, like, for the longest time, I didn't even have a to-do list. It was just all in my head.
Sure, yeah.
And that's the worst.
Yeah, sure, because... yeah, then you'll forget something and you'll remember it another day, and then you gotta like freak out and pivot to that thing really quick.
Or you wake up in the middle of the night and you gotta go.
Oh yeah,
like I've done this. I've woke up in the middle of the night and had to go down to my computer and make this thing happen because I didn't want to forget.
Yeah, yep.
For a long time, I kept a notebook next to my bed because I would wake up and be thinking about something. And I'd have a solution for something, or I'd remember something that needed to get done that wasn't on my to-do list. And if you have a pad of paper and a pencil sitting there, you can just write it down and it'll help you fall back asleep because you knew I wrote that down and I'm not going to forget about it.
Yep.
What's funny about that is typically you wake up and you look at what you wrote down and you're like, why was I so worried about that thing?
Yeah, because you wake up in like your right mind, you're like, that's stupid. I don't need to do that.
Yeah. But it helps you. You know, there are things you're going to write down that probably need to get done, and that way you're not going to forget about them. And then it'll help you sleep better.
Mm-hmm.
Get those things off your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's probably the hardest part is all the stuff and all the thinking you're doing in your mind and not being able to turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
These things help you be more productive.
Sure.
But I think probably the biggest power of them is that it helps you to turn your brain off.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do is by limiting your working hours and just saying, okay, like let's say your working hours are till 5 p.m., as much as possible. And when your day is over, you just mentally and physically tell yourself, work is over. I can think about it tomorrow.
Right.
Yep. And to not leave anything hanging either. Like if you're at the end of a job and you got to send out an invoice, don't wait till tomorrow to send out the invoice. Just send it out real quick, get your brain back, and then go home and be with your family. Yeah. This little bit that we just talked about has been game changer for me.
And I mean,
as far as just balancing all the things that I have to do.
Yeah.
And for me, what it came down to for me was I have so many recurring tasks that I pretty much can't do anything for the most part.
Yeah.
Until I get rid of some of those recurring tasks, right? And so for me, I just go, it's pretty much like, okay, who am I going to delegate this to? And who's going to get it done?
Right.
Or who's going to automate it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it, which is awesome. But it used to be, I felt like I had to do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, I mean, for what it's worth, like, because what you're talking about is essentially just using a system that's called time blocking. Like, you're just blocking out time to do things, which is a very well...
Kind of. I think time blocking is really like I think time blocking is like a little different, isn't it?
What do you think?
Time blocking is where you're purposely blocking off time. Like time blocking would be more like, okay, I have the one thing I need to work on. I'm going to block off every Monday and Thursday morning for time blocking. That's time blocking. This is more like just scheduling out your life.
Yeah.
I guess this is kind of a mixture. It's like, okay, let's schedule it out. Let's schedule out my life. And then let's block time where I can.
Yeah.
Is really what this is.
Okay, yeah, I understand how you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I would say that this is the same thing because even when you talk about scheduling, all you're doing is saying, oh, these things of my life take certain amounts of time.
Yeah.
Let's just put them on paper so that I feel like there's a plan that I can make so I can make time to do things.
Well, it's so you know where you can schedule the other things.
Yes.
So you know how much time you actually have.
Exactly. Because like the thing
most people have no idea.
No, they don't. They just go and they just go, thinking, like you said, they have to do a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
And if they don't do the stuff, then they'll never get to where they want to go.
Yep. And then everything else takes a back burner, like your health, your eating, family time, all that stuff, because you just have so much to do.
Yep.
You don't have time for that stuff.
It's kind of like what it helps you do is just get a clear data picture of like what's happening in your life so that you can look at what you're doing. And then you can either carve out unhelpful things if you have them in there, which we all do.
Yep.
And then make sure that you're just optimally essentially running your life.
Yep. Here's the thing. If you do this and then you never look at it again, it does you no good.
Yeah.
You have to actually live and die by your calendar.
Yeah. And the other thing,
you have to actually say, okay, it's 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whatever.
Time to do the thing I said I was going to do.
It's time for me to get up.
Yep.
Okay. It's this time. It's time for me to go to the gym, or it's time for me to go out in my garage and work out. Okay. It's this time, it's time for me to eat breakfast. And this sounds lame. Like it's like to people who have never done this, they're probably like, holy crap, I don't want to be that regimented in my life.
Yeah, I want freedom and flexibility and all that kind of stuff.
Fun and
I got to schedule fun. Like, so 2 hours of fun is up and nope, sorry guys, fun's over.
Heck yeah. Because the thing is if you own a business, you're never going to have fun.
Jared,
because
come on.
You're just going to be working all the time, right? Instead of going, I got 2 hours for fun. Let's go have some fun. you're going to go, I got too much work to do. I don't have time for fun. You have to schedule that stuff in.
Yeah. So then you can know.
Yeah.
And then also it's like, it helps with like communications, like with your spouse. Cause then you can be like, hey, I have this thing scheduled. We should like date nights. Like you throw date nights on there and then suddenly you have a time.
Here's the thing. If you can get your wife to do a Google Calendar.
Oh, good luck with that.
Dude, I finally got Christelle to
really?
use hers. Not to the extent that I use mine.
Yeah, I see it on there.
But at least to the...
You're turning up the water
at
on
least
her.
to the extent where like I can send her a Google invite for something and she'll see it, a calendar invite, and then it'll block it off on her calendar and it's blocked off on my calendar and she can do vice versa. That's awesome.
It's funny. Well, because she has to now.
She has to.
Yeah, you tricked her into that one.
Not on purpose.
Nah,
It wasn't my intention.
Just a benefit.
Just happy accident.
Yeah, happy accident.
As Bob Ross would say.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, that's awesome. Like if you can, when you're married, you guys got to be on the same page. Like if you're trying to go to bed at 9 because you want to wake up at 5 a.m. And your wife is like, no, I'm staying up till 11. Well, I don't know about, I guess there's people they go to bed at different times. I think that's weird. We go to bed at the same time. And if my wife is going to bed at 11 p.m., there's no way I'm going to bed at 9.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm going to feel bad.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, I'm going to bed. And she'd be like, what? You're going to bed?
Yeah, but
you don't even want to hang out with me?
We got 2 more hours of stuff to do.
Yeah. YouTube. We got 2 more hours
Yeah,
of
we got
YouTube
2 hours of YouTube to watch. Come on.
Yeah. And then I fall asleep on the couch.
Yeah, but that's different.
True. Yeah, dude. Game changer if you can do it with your wife too.
Yeah.
And then get your kids to do it. And then if you want to take this like next level, you start getting a habit tracker.
Yeah,
Are you habit tracking yet?
Let's see. So for me, I've been in and out of habit tracking cycles because like at some point,
it's a habit. You don't need to track it.
Well, yeah, because I'm just like, okay, yeah, I am working out or I am eating the thing. And I'm like, okay. And I think it morphs too. Like when you start habit tracking, first off, when you start scheduling, you recognize the value of it and you say, okay, cool, this works really well. I'll do it in this way because that works really well. And I'll abide by the rules. I'll do what my calendar tells me to do.
Yeah.
And then when you habit track, you're like, okay, there's all these things I want to improve upon in my life. And then you start to monitor your progress through them. But then you do those things long enough and then they become patterns in your life and disciplines.
Yep.
The only time what you have to watch out for is when you start to drift away from them. And sometimes you drift into other things that are progressions, like biking turns into running and everything. And like I get to the point where I'm like, I'm doing all the right things consistently enough. I don't feel like I need to go and tick the box to see the thing.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like with this calendar thing, you're going to hate it at first.
Yeah.
But if you do it long enough, consistently, if you consistently follow it for a long enough period of time for you to see the results of it, it will make you go, I can't afford to not do this.
Sure.
I have to do this.
Sure.
Like in the beginning, you're going to be like, I don't want to be that regimented.
Yeah.
But then once you actually like live it out for, let's say 100 days for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and you just make yourself be consistent with living and dying by your calendar, you're going to look back on the last 6 months and go, holy crap, I worked out 5 days a week for 6 months because I scheduled it on my calendar.
Right.
And now I'm way fitter.
Right.
Holy crap, I spent the last 6 months just putting my head down and working as a technician 4 days a week. Look at all the money I have in my bank.
Right.
Holy crap, I spent every Thursday for the last 6 months working on my business instead of in it. And look at all the progress I've made. Like this is how people make progress on things.
Yeah.
They plan it out.
Yep.
There's the old saying, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan.
Yeah.
This is planning.
Yeah.
Is really all it is.
Yeah. Don't just go out there and wing it and just hope it's going to work out.
And that just boils down to like the one resource you're limited on is time.
Yeah.
And so why would you waste it?
Yeah. Yeah. And then
there's times like it's okay to sit down and watch YouTube or watch a movie.
Yeah.
Like that brings you joy and you enjoy doing that.
Yeah, it lets you relax or like chill out for a little bit.
But if you don't plan out the rest of your time, you're going to waste the rest of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a thing that like most people don't know how to do, that if they just went and did it, it would change their life.
Yeah. And I think it's a thing that most people don't know how to do because nobody ever sat down and explained it.
Right.
Like, because when you go through school, nobody's like, hey, let's talk about being efficient. It's like, make sure you do your homework or else you're not going to know the stuff.
Dude.
And then you look around and you see some kids who don't need to do homework and they know all the stuff because they have brains like that.
When I was a kid, because I did homeschool for junior high, and then I went into high school, and I didn't know how to, like, the teacher would tell me, okay, this is the homework that's due next Tuesday. And I was like, okay. And then I'd forget.
Yeah.
And then I'd come to school next Tuesday and she'd be like, okay, your whatever's due. And I'd be like, I don't have that.
You're like, I don't remember anything about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no concept of like scheduling things or creating time to do things or writing things down and making sure they got done on a certain time.
Yeah.
And I went through my whole high school career like that.
Yeah.
I barely passed. I didn't pass ninth grade, and I barely passed high school, right? Barely graduated. And then went to work.
Yep.
And then my whole life, the only thing I was ever on time for was work.
Yeah.
It was the only thing I ever planned out.
Yeah.
It was just, okay, I got to go to work. Okay, I'm home, and now we just goof off.
Yeah.
It's the weekend, I'm goofing off,
Yeah.
right? And then I started my business, and I put all of my time into my business, and my health slipped, my relationships slipped. I missed time with my kids. I didn't do half the things I enjoyed doing.
Right.
And then once my business got to a certain point, I was overweight, out of shape, not very happy, and I've had to work really hard to get a lot of that back.
Yeah.
And the only way I've been able to get it back is to do this.
Yeah.
That's it. And I wish I would have done this sooner.
Right.
Yeah. Hundo.
Cool, man.
Cool, man.
Thanks, dude.
Later, Holmes.
See ya.